I've been learning more and more, and I love reading about Stoicism. I talk about Marcus Aurelius on here so many times, especially when he says our life is what our thoughts make it. And that's why it's been so hard to get outside of my head, because the overthinking process is understanding that your thoughts is what your life is going to be. If you think a certain way about yourself, you're right. Seneca says, we suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality. Basically, a lot of the things that we imagine in our head that we feel that is so difficult to do and just dread doing it, we're suffering in our own head more than in reality, because sometimes when we just go and do those things, it's better off than when we procrastinate and really think about it so much. The problem is not the actual meaning or purpose that I'm trying to find. The issue is me. And sometimes I go into that, but other times I feel this sensation, this burning sensation in me, that when I look in the mirror, that it's another level that I can get to. And of course, I know that for a fact. Even though I understand that I'm suffering in my own imagination, sometimes it's hard to believe those things. Sometimes you just focus on yourself and you don't really think about the outside world or other things that's going on. And obviously I get to this Sonder type of feeling. And for those of you that don't know what Sonder means, is basically realizing that everybody has their own life and own complexities that they deal with, and their life is just as complex as yours. We might not go through the same things, but that does not mean that their life is not complex. Sometimes I go through this existentialism type of thing of, we find our own purpose, we find our own meaning, and it's rooted in our own thoughts. When you think about those things, it puts you back in this overthinking process, like, this pressure that you're applying upon yourself. In reality, Seneca is right. You're putting this unneeded pressure. You're putting this pressure on yourself that doesn't actually exist. I like to think about Viktor Frankl. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. He was the author of the book Man's Search for Meaning. It was basically about people being in the concentration camps, and that's what he was a part of that, right? He was a psychiatrist, and he happened to be at an unfortunate time where he was put in those concentration camps, him and his wife. He, being a psychiatrist, studying the people and what's going on in these camps and the way they think and the way they're acting and reacting to certain things, right? And he ends up coming up with this thing called logotherapy. So what is logotherapy? Essentially, it is predicated on the idea that finding purpose amid suffering may hold the key to alleviating human suffering. So what does that actually mean? Well, in his book, he explains that if a man believes in something greater than himself or finds purpose somewhere in his pain or in his life, he will push through the maximum amount of suffering. So essentially, if he finds purpose in suffering, he will endure great pain. And to me, this is rooted back into the existentialism thing, because what am I thinking about right now? I'm thinking that I, number one, have to have this purpose. And it is my job to create this purpose and to find this purpose and to create it into something great. On top of that, though, sometimes the purpose, sometimes we like to switch it. And what he realized was it was never about finding the purpose. It was the fact that the purpose was discovered inside of the suffering. So when you were going through great suffering, sometimes people found their purpose in that, their purpose, or something they associated with purpose inside the suffering. I came to the idea that sometimes, I guess, as people, we create meaning to reduce the amount of mental or physical agony that we endure. And some of the times after the fact of the concentration camps, because he did survive, when he was having his clients come into him, he would give them the logotherapy, essentially saying that, they don't need actual medication. The help that they need is the fact that they have no purpose or no aim. And for me, that is one of the issues I'm going through right now. And I don't like to talk about it a lot. The Stoics also say that you complaining does nothing about the situation. Accept your fate and realize that you need to do what you got to do, essentially. And it kind of goes into the idea of, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Amor, Fati, which means embracing and accepting all that has occurred and is occurring and will occur in the future. Basically, it roughly translates to love of fate. So basically, in Stoicism, although you have no control over what happens in life, you have the power to control how you react to it. You have the power to control what you're going to do about what happens, and complaining does nothing for the situation. Essentially, you're just wallowing in the filth of imaginary pain that you've created. Though, yes, we endure very horrible things in life, a lot of times we create monsters. We create a monster of a problem that, though it may be very hard to endure, we make it worse by the things that we think and we say. A lot of the times the problem is less extrinsic and more intrinsic, meaning that it's more things that happen on the inside than it is on the outside. And this is where I get into this thing of thinking clearly. I'm still trying to kind of figure out the kinks, and we all are. It's hard not to overthink about certain things. It's hard not to put ourselves in these imaginary prisons of the mind. It's obsessive. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about it, bro. Like, I'm trying to find this purpose and this meaning in things that I do and how I can create it for myself. You know, I created these videos, like I've said in the past, they're journals, they're things that I feel, and I put them out in hopes to help other people. And this is the same thing. Even though you want to get money and you want a stable and financial place that you can be in based off of doing YouTube and doing things like this, it was never about that. Yes, I want that. Yes, I want that life. Yes, I want to be able to basically have a living off of just creating videos. But it's more about myself and others. Yes, I want to do that. But I also thought I have so many things in my brain. I need to place them somewhere. And it's cool. It's good to write because I write too. I have a pocket notebook where I write in here. I have other notebooks that I write in. It's good to write. But I thought that I knew that there were certain things that I just had to put out and talk about. And I've been fiending to talk about this. I just didn't know when it was a good time to say it. But I guess this is a better time than anything to say something when you know that it's full in your mind. I knew that once I picked this camera up today, it was time. It was time to say something. That's all I want to say for this video. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And there's more content coming soon. The obsession is not particularly this. The obsession is just to be better, right? I have no need to create an enemy, or I've heard certain people say they have to create some type of environment in their head to where they can keep going. And I have no need to create that. It's always been me. I've always looked at myself as my worst enemy and somebody who I have to constantly battle with because I can never win. And in some instances it's good and sometimes it's bad, because when you can never win against yourself, it becomes a very difficult process to go through.